Steve King can't stop getting himself in trouble, but he doesn't think he's in trouble. He thinks, isn't everybody a white supremacist? So now if you think, hey, white supremacist, this guy's a member of Congress. That seems a little heavy. Are you sure about that, Cenk? Yeah, I'm positive. So, and I can prove it to you. So he recently met with members of a far-right Austrian group with links to the Nazi Party. So that happened. Now, meeting with them in the first place is deeply problematic. But for the first time, Steve King was perhaps accidentally right. And he said if they were in America pushing the platform that they push, they would be Republicans. Well, that is certainly true. That party is very right-wing, and the right-wing in this country are Republicans, and they have elected officials representing them in the United States Congress like Steve King. So yes, indeed, if the Nazi-linked party came here, they would be Republicans. For the first time, I agree with Steve King. Steve Stivers, who is representing the Republicans in the House in the election season, did not like that comment. I don't know his personal opinions. He's in the Republican Party, so I imagine they're not great, but he at least recognizes not a good way to win elections. Now, Steve King might think, hey, the whole country is racist like me, right? That's how, I don't know, that's how Republicans have been winning elections for decades. We did the Southern strategy. We ran against black people in the beginning, then against gay people. We're running against Latinos now and trans people. We scare the hell out of them and we do racist, bigoted strategy. I don't get it, what's the problem, right? Well, the country's changed and apparently Stivers understands that and he said, quote, Congress, this is the Republican. Congressman Steve King's recent comments, actions, and retweets are completely inappropriate. We must stand up against white supremacy and hate in all forms, and I strongly condemn this behavior. Now look, I think that the Republican Party thinks, hey, Steve, you're supposed to use a dog whistle, not your actual human voice. You're not supposed to actually say, yay, Nazis. We're supposed to say, English is a second language, or as a first language, as the only language. We're supposed to use code words. In fact, that is part of this story that we don't have time for, but I will share that with you in tomorrow's postgame about how Steve King started using dog whistles and the history of those dog whistles, and then how he switched over to just simply saying racist things. So tyt.com/join to become a member and get all the postgames. Only the members get the postgames. Okay, now let's continue. Now here are some of the things that he also did recently. Iowa Representative Steve King on Wednesday, this was a couple weeks ago, endorsed a candidate in Toronto's mayoral election who was fired by an alt-right media outlet after she appeared on a podcast produced by a neo-Nazi website. I feel like I see a pattern here. She was fired by the alt-right for being too pro-Nazi. Okay, and Steve King jumps in. He tweeted on Wednesday his support for this person, Faith Goldy, a former employee of Rebel Media and a candidate in Toronto's upcoming mayoral election, by calling Goldy, quote, pro-Western civilization and a fighter for our values. Well, that seems pretty clear. By the way, if you're wondering, well, how neo-Nazi is she? Goldy was fired last year by Rebel Media after she appeared on a podcast for the Daily Stormer, the world's biggest neo-Nazi website, during which she recited the 14-word slogan often used as an identifier by white supremacists. Okay, but Steve King's not done yet. And now let's have a little fun by going into his past. In 2008, King said that if Barack Hussein Obama won the presidency, the radical Islamists, the Al-Qaeda, would be dancing in the streets in greater numbers than they did on September 11th, because they would declare victory in this war on terror. Gee, I wonder if that's racist. I can't quite tell. But in case you still haven't been able to piece together where Steve King's going with this, here is a tweet that he had. Europe is waking up, referring to that person, Mark Collette, saying that 65% of Italians are now opposed to mass immigration. Don't trust a word that that guy says. I'll get back to him in a second. He says, will America wake up in time? So who did he retweet with that point about immigration? Oh, that's Mark Collette, a British neo-Nazi. He just does it on a regular basis. When they ask him to apologize, they're like, hey, maybe you didn't know, that's okay. But it turns out he's a neo-Nazi. So do you want to take it down or apologize? He's like, no, I don't want to apologize. Well, then that's crystal clear. super clear. But if you're still not sold on whether Steve King's a racist, let us quote Steve King. Watch.
To the German people and to any population of people that is a declining population that isn't willing to have enough babies to reproduce themselves. And I've said to them, you cannot rebuild your civilization with somebody else's babies. You've got to keep your birth rate up.
Their effort here is to be celebrating because the United States is moving towards becoming the whites becoming a minority, be a majority minority within the country, according to their plan.
This is an effort on the left, I think, to break down the American civilization and the American culture and turn it into something entirely different. So I talked to Keith Ellison about that, who would be the lead Muslim in Congress. And for everyone who's a valedictorian, there's another 100 out there that they weigh 130 pounds and they've got calves the size of cantaloupes because they're hauling 75 pounds of marijuana across the desert.
He's adding up Hispanics and blacks, and he predicts will be in greater number than whites in America. I will predict the Hispanics and the blacks will be fighting each other before that happens.
A Muslim American, an Italian American, a Christian American, a Jewish American, you do realize that they are all equal, right? They are all the same thing. We don't need babies from one of those groups more than we need them from other groups. Do you agree with that?
Well, I would say that it depends.
Why do you pause on a question like that, Congressman?
Well, we know exactly why he pauses. And that was in regards to a tweet he sent out about how we can't, continue our culture with other people's babies. Which other people? Right? And of course he means we got to keep America white. And that's why he paused. He wouldn't even say Jewish Americans, Muslim Americans are the same as Christian Americans. Of course he's not going to say that because he's a racist. And then when you call Steve King a racist based on all the things, overwhelming evidence that you just saw, they're like, oh my God, you guys love, you love to get offended. Just because he thinks you're other people and you don't belong in this country and he likes neo-Nazis. Now all of a sudden you're offended by Nazis. Yeah, that's right, we are. You should read a little bit of history and figure out what they did. Now I've got great news for you. It turns out, now he's been winning elections all this time in his part of Iowa, right? A poll released Tuesday showed his lead over Democratic challenger J.D. Scholten was down to 1 percentage point. Oh, that would be awesome. If on election night, which of course we'll cover here, TYT.com/live, we'll be on for 12 straight hours, don't miss it. If I can announce to you guys that Steve King's career is over, and J.D. Scholten has sent him to the bullpen. That's not really where you send people, but still, sent him out of the stadium, okay? Relieved him of duty. That would be phenomenal. By the way, you can make that happen. Here's J.D. Scholten's links, ScholtenForIowa.com. You could donate, you could volunteer. There's about 5 days left before the election. We'll put the links down below if you're watching this later on YouTube or Facebook. Get involved and make sure that we send this racist Steve King packing and out of Congress and out of our lives for good. And even the Republicans now recognize, the guy's a monster. And so he's a monster in their midst. And if he wins, he goes back into Congress. And he affects national policy. Get him out, get him out, get him out. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.